I asked your staff to check, and they've done this. I left the House of Commons in 2001, and I've been amazed to hear this. I mean, MPs had a second home, and they used the allowance to pay the mortgage on it. But then in July, and Norman, you voted against it, they voted to double it. That's when the abuse
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
July 2001. Half the MPs weren't there,
yeah,
and it was carried. 229 MPs voted to double it. 117 voted against.
Yeah.
That would have been backbench rebellions against both front benches saying don't do this, because they knew this was the one.
That was the real money coming in then.
And so I think it's all very well MPs saying, well, I just did it because everybody else was. I think it's time we ask the 229 why they voted to double it. Because this was the big loophole.
Well, Phil Hope voted in favour of it, and he's having to pay a big chunk of it back. Hazel Blair's has set a bit of a precedent now. Maybe partly to save her skin too, because the Brownites have been ganging up against her ever she said, YouTube if you want to.
The trouble is, if you strip out everyone who's done this, I mean, there's an awful lot of people very close to both the party leaders, and they can't really afford to lose. That's the reality of it. So I suspect there will be some people pushed out and deselected and so on. I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I don't think Labour MPs would have done this if we still had automatic reselection. I mean, when those days when they had to go back to their party every 5 years and get reselected, they wouldn't have dared. Once it became, a seat for life, which it currently is.
I mean, you're all going to come under great pressure to do what David Cameron's done now, aren't you? I mean, all the parties, the main parties, are going to come under pressure to set up their own commission and review all the expenses claims for the past 4 years.
Look, I welcome what David Cameron did yesterday. I think it's a very welcome step in many ways. It doesn't take away the need for an overall independent analysis, which is all parties rather than simply one party, but it sends the right signal, except I think in one respect, if I may say so, which is that the big thing missing was the mortgage payment and the capital gains from the mortgage payment. It will sort out the trouser press, and by the way, I thought trouser presses only existed in private eye rather than actually in real life. But
I thought Mick Campbell had enough to hand them to every Lib Dem MP.
That's Christian. But it will sort out the trouser press. It won't sort out the big issue, which is the big capital gain, and that's what Ken was talking about in this particular vote.
No, but that's exactly the kind of issue that ought to be decided independently. I would like Sir Christopher Kelly's remit, if it's not wide enough at the moment, I'm not sure whether it is, to be extended to cover all these things, and I will abide by whatever he decides.
See,
I
David
don't want
Cameron,
to have any vote on it
he
myself.
himself,
I agree with that.
David
That's
Cameron
exactly right.
claims £24,000 in mortgage interest. It's the maximum you can do. So he's not exactly not benefited from all
and
this.
we wouldn't mind if, when David Cameron retires from politics, that second property became the property of the House of Commons and was allocated to another newly elected MP.
You can't say that, because that assumes that the £24,000 mortgage interest he pays reflects the complete value of the property, and it may well not. It's a bit more complicated than at first sight it appears, which is why it should all go to some independent bodies. But
it's also done.
He should decide.
It's also done reputational damage to the Conservatives, even if Mr. Cameron this morning is getting credit for moving quickly, because it's reminded us in the 21st century that this is a party that has MPs who have moats and whose gardens are so big they need £300 worth of horse manure, and who have swimming pools, and Tory grandees who are rich as can be anyway. Mr. Michael Ancram, or Lord Ancram I should call him, or the Earl of Ancram, he's worth 27 million, according to the Sunday Times, and yet he still claims for getting a new boiler.
And so do the rich people on the Labour side. The richest people in the House of Commons are on the Labour side. One of them's in the Cabinet.
Yeah, but we've done the Labour side. We're talking about you now.
Cabinet, and
we've done them. They're lying like the Battle of the Somme.
No, but you're shifting. You're shifting the ground.
But this is not. Let me give you an easy question here. This is not the Tory party that we're meant to think of in the 21st century, is it?
And it has, I think, brought up a bit of the old class divide again. But we shouldn't think this. I think this is a particularly human failing. Who was that incredibly successful boss of General Electric there, the whole world army?
Jack Welch?
Yeah.
Jack Welch.
After he'd retired, I mean, they discovered he'd been claiming for condoms he used on foreign trips. And you think someone as rich as that is getting a receipt from the chemist and putting in. When I was in the House of Commons, I started out claiming.
You bought your own condoms.
I started out claiming for my cab's home late night session, and the form was so tedious to fill in. I thought I can't be bothered, and I stopped. But for someone this rich to be collecting all these receipts.
Yeah,
we have all been damaged. Of course, the political class as a whole has been damaged, and it's very serious for the future of our democracy. And getting back the trust, which is an essential part of a democratic system, is going to be very difficult.
There's one issue not yet been sorted out,
Final
however.
word from you, and then we'll get some emails.
One issue not sorted out. The designation of first and second homes. Is it really the case that a small flat in Westminster is someone's first home and a castle with a moat is their second home? I just don't think so.
Yep. I think I know the answer to that. What are the emails saying?
Well, a lot of them, I suppose, could be summed up with what Edward Wheatley has said to us. He says, if according to Michael Howard, MPs can't be trusted to set their own remuneration, then how can they be trusted to make big decisions of governance? So everything being brought into question now. Also, the issue of the Speaker. Jenny says, I agree with the comment the Speaker should resign immediately. Kate Hoey should be an excellent replacement. Great integrity, the courage to stand up to bullies and buffoons. She is respected. Why not do that? Roger says MPs have been pocketing capital gains from property boom for years. The very high prices of homes have caused enormous problems for ordinary people. The government did nothing to stop that. Now we know why, says Roger. And finally, Kevin says, Hazel Blears paying $13,000 to the Inland Revenue, which she claims she doesn't owe, as she's broken no rules or laws. Is this a cynical ploy to salvage a tarnished reputation and a political career after being found out?
There are hard